So the way that you stand out in that environment is like make a really good product and give really good service to everybody.
All right, folks, episode 42, and boy, am I excited. This was actually a connect of Eric, shout out DTC, who told me about this gentleman that also lived in Austin, hailing from Utah, Jordan Konkol, and how more perfect his agency is called Whale Farm. So there was just too many connections not to take the coffee. We ended up having a coffee together and really hit it off. And I said, hey, man, you got to come on the pod. And so here we are. Jordan, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm gonna change it to quadruple whale. Just
Hey,
to
let's go on the next round. We can
yeah.
do it. I love it. What's better than 3 whales? How about 4? Um, so you're in Austin, but you used to live in, as your beautiful wall art shows, you used to be
Uh,
in Utah, yeah?
yeah,
When did
yeah.
you make it out to Austin?
This was in September.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it
Yeah,
was so recent. I forgot that part. Oh
yeah.
wow. And you were in the capital, correct?
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I was just north of Salt Lake in Ogden.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Do you miss it?
I miss the mountains sometimes.
Yep.
You know.
I heard a really pernicious rumor that I don't know if it's true, and you can actually let me know. Is the pollution really bad in Utah? People were saying there's like a pollution problem there. Is that true? There's no way, right?
Yeah, in the winter it's pretty bad. It's like some of the
Really?
worst in the world. So yeah,
Seriously? No
yeah,
joke.
yeah.
Is it
You can
because
check.
it sits in the bowl, or like why is it so bad? There's nothing there, right? Like there's not like industry or I mean,
No, there's like a couple oil refineries. There's a big mine called Kennecott Copper Mine. I don't know a lot about that, but and there's cars driving around, obviously.
yeah, but
So
Salt Lake City's tiny, and that's the biggest city in the state, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's just so
I think
counterintuitive to
it's
me.
it's inversion. It's called inversion. Something that you'll have to talk to a meteorologist for this, but something to do with the hot air and the cool air
Uh huh.
flipping. And then there's a valley in the mountains, and basically none of the polluted air escapes, so it just continues to concentrate.
That
And
is
so,
so
yeah,
crazy to me. I can't believe that's actually a real thing. This is beautiful. Southern Utah is like one of my favorite parts in the states. It's gorgeous. You have Zion, Bryce, everything there. It's fantastic.
mhm. So
What's
yeah, definitely a thing. Pollution.
That's crazy. What was your favorite parks out there? Did you get to go to a lot? How long were you out there? Actually, I didn't. I don't even know that.
So I'm originally from Utah, and I've kind of
Okay.
floated around and always found my way back there.
Yeah.
So I'm in all of my friend groups and family. I'm like the recurring character, that left left season 3 and then he comes back and he's back and then he leaves again. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was
Yeah.
the favorite place you lived?
Um I mean I always lived in the Ogden and Salt Lake area.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I like being close to the mountains because I like
Yep.
mountain biking and
Yep.
skiing and just getting out into nature.
Yep.
It's kind
Yeah.
of especially in the type of work that we do. I mean, here we are staring into screens, talking to each other while other people either staring at a screen or kind of absentmindedly sort of listening are are consuming what we're saying. Like we live in a very mediated sort of environment
Yep.
that I don't think is exactly what we're designed or evolved to cope with. And so being able to just get out into, you know, just actual nature, like where you're actually kind of in danger a little bit,
Yep.
you know? So I just feel like there's something primal about that you need. So,
I couldn't agree more. I think there's something to it. For me as well, it has to be, or it doesn't have to be, obviously, but I find that oceans and mountains are really, really helpful for that. because you just realize how small you are and how, especially too, when you get out in it, like if you're doing some backcountry stuff or something like that, where it's like you basically have everything you need on your back. And sometimes you have to go find water. Sometimes, there is something to that where it's fantastic. But I do enjoy climate control at the same time.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
could never live in Texas without air conditioning, but I
Oh,
do think
yeah, Texas for
there's
sure.
definitely the something, to your point, like a primal need for a lot of humans to be able to go and reconnect through nature, especially like to your point, people that are heavily involved in like digital jobs of that sense, where you're just so connected all the time, and then like you're just forced into no cell service, this quiet, this yeah. And
Yeah,
Utah's not super scary, right? I mean, you got big cats, but
no,
that's
I
about it.
mean,
There's not like bears, like the Pacific North bears freak me out, like Pacific Northwest.
yeah, your
That's scary stuff.
your biggest danger is probably dehydration
Right.
or falling
Yep.
or getting lost and then freezing.
Yep.
It's more just environmental than it is animals, but
Predators. Right.
I would say that, yeah, there's some very, rugged and remote areas in Utah. I didn't spend a lot of time there. I like to pretend like I'm being, super adventurous and still have, I can still see city lights out there, and plus, like, Utah compared to a place like Alaska, which
Yep.
I worked there for a while, or Montana, I went to school there for a while. The nature in those kinds of environments is a lot more severe and frightening.
Yep.
It doesn't look like, you know, the Lord of the Rings, Hobbiton, or whatever. It doesn't
Yep.
look like a friendly place. It looks like
Yep.
it'll kill you, which is a
Yeah.
totally different feeling, than nice green mountainsides with freshly cut trails and stuff. I kinda like
100%.
the in between because I don't think as you were describing, like, our job sitting behind a dashboard or sitting in video calls, depending on what you're doing, um, maybe in the future, like, there will be some Neuralink update, like the media buyer update that removes your need for, like, human connection and physical exercise. Your body will just, like, tremble to get your exercise, and you'll just be, like, playing a video game in your mind while your body is updating or something. But we're not there yet where we're fully disembodied and we're also not, our caveman
Right.
ancestors. We're sort of in between, so we need just you know, a little of each, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you can
how.
set out if you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, that's exactly how I feel. Where there's a certain, again, that being able to balance the nature, because I think honestly, what for me anyways, personally, what the nature does, because I've always wanted to make it out. It's like Bozeman, Wyoming's supposed to also be beautiful, but these I don't like the cold, so I'm only going to go in the summer. But I mean, Bozeman in the summer is supposed to be some of the best places in the country to go, where it's just gorgeous
Oh,
out
yeah,
there.
big
um,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. And so, but for me, again, I think it brings back to the gratitude of like being able to survive in X, Y, or Z environment. But then you don't need, like, it shows you that you don't need these modern amenities, but
Mhm.
still at the same time, like, it's really nice to have them. And so, like, if I get, it's a
Yeah,
bit of a stoic ideal, right? Like, if I gave you a glass of water, but then I offered you like a really fancy wine or a fancy bourbon or whatever your kind of thing was, you would take the bourbon or you take the wine. But then if I took that away from you, you'd be fine with the water. And I think that's kind of for
yeah,
me the same thing of like, I want to know that I'm self sufficient and I can handle myself in nature and in these kind of challenging situations. But at the same time, like I said, I enjoy like a mattress.
uh,
I enjoy climate control. I enjoy like cool beverages and things of that nature, but I
uh,
don't need them. And so it helps, I guess, instill a bit of gratitude in me that I think can be lost sometimes in the modern world, where we have such an environment of abundance for most people that it can drive a feeling of entitlement, which I think can
mhm.
degrade from the kind of, detract from a really nice human experience.
Yeah, and that glass of water, if you went on a hike and got lost and you were thinking about drinking your own urine and you like had 911 dialed up and you're just ready to hit it and you were disoriented and then you get a glass of like or not even a glass, you drink water from a hose. That's gonna taste better than any, you know, the finest drinks on the menu, you know, because you're hungry or you're thirsty, I mean.
Totally. There's actually went to Hawaii, Kauai, with my fiance to go, and we went on one of the. It's supposed to be like one of the most dangerous hikes in the world. And you know, you hear this kind of like hyperbole, like whatever. Like I've been on things like pretty sketchy backcountry stuff, and it's like, oh, it's so super super dangerous, and you're like, it's fine. This was not that. This was actually a really sketchy hike. It's called the Kalalau Trail, and it's super super sketchy. And I actually ended up getting medevaced out because for some reason I
What?
don't know why. Yeah, crazy. So they have these. It's basically this crazy trail. You can hike down to the beach. You can camp on the beach, and you come back, and it's about 11 miles. And it's hot and it's humid. And I brought a bunch of water. I brought a pack that was way too heavy. Like I basically did all the wrong things. But what killed me was I didn't bring any electrolytes, and so it was humid, so I was just sweating, 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 and then I was drinking water and sweating, sweating, and then I ended up bonking where I was just dehydrated, had no clue where I
Yeah.
was. Like it was just horrible. And so we ended up being able to make it to, and there's something called Crawler's Ledge where you're basically like tons of exposure, dropping down like 1,000 feet. It's uber sketchy hike, like super super sketchy. But
Mhm.
they have like two of these little helipads that they basically are for like taking people out. So we ended up making it to one of them. But I had at this point dropped all my pack, so I dropped all of my gear. I'm just walking with a water bottle. Um, we ended up keeping the tent, so she pitched the tent for me. This is like 3, 4 o'clock, and we have no way. There's no cell service out there, so we have no way to get any type of radio out, and basically I'm just puking, cramping, like totally locked up, like I'm in super bad shape. So eventually, my fiance goes down to the cliff and starts yelling at a fishing boat, and so the fishing boat ends up radioing it in. It's a crazy story. And then so I have no shirt on, I'm totally soaked, and it gets cold. It gets a little bit cold there, like 60s, and so totally wet, no blankets, no sleeping bags, in 60-degree weather is not the path. And so I'm freaking out a little bit in my head, but I'm totally gone. Anyways, too long didn't read. We end up getting the chopper. They send a chopper out, but the problem is they take me out and they're like, hey, we don't know if we're going to be able to get your fiance too because we don't fly at night. And they're basically taking me back at dusk. So you got to hurry up and get in this helicopter because we got to fly back out. Anyways, super crazy story. But to put the too long didn't read of going down that path was that I really, really enjoyed Hawaii the rest of the time we were there because I was like, hey, I didn't get my card pulled. Like I've been in some really sketchy, gnarly spots, and that was like the worst, like the closest it's come to kind of getting the card pulled there. Where it's like,
Oh,
wow, it was could have went tits up really, really quickly, especially if we had to stay up there at night because we're on this huge cliff up in it where it. Anyways, so yes, don't recommend near-death experiences, but they can help drive a lot of gratitude quickly as well.
that's
Going
what
back to
they call, like, type 2 fun.
yeah.
Is that experience. Have you heard that?
No, I've never heard that. Type
I
two
don't know, I
fun.
think there's a lot of people right now that are into, like, dangerous or really physically challenging
Yep.
things over the last few years. It's almost like the pendulum swinging back from our,
Being
overly
soft.
plush lives. People are into lots of people are in jujitsu.
Yeah.
Apparently, I move here and it's like every other person I see can strangle me. So I'm like very polite to people in this town. But jujitsu, extreme marathon events,
Yep.
triathlon.
Yep.
It's like people want a physical challenge or something that's unpleasant for them.
Yep.
There's a business idea, just charge people money to give them a hard time in some way.
There is actually I can't remember where one of the but there is a was it Chicago? I can't remember, but it's called Lambert's, and they throw rolls at you, and
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
I
one.
went there. I
Those the
went there.
stick. They're assholes to you.
Yeah,
They're
I didn't know
douchebags.
that.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know that. I was with friends and I was like, "I'll go get us a table," and I walk in and, I was like, "Yeah, can we get a table?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he, like, threw our silverware. I was like, "What the heck is going on here?" It was like that fight or I'm like, "Is this guy about to, like, throw hands with me or what?" I was so thrown off. It was the perfect, test case for that kind of environment. So I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, so somebody's already onto your business model, Jordan. I'm afraid. I'm sorry to tell you, but so speaking of hard stuff, you're a fairly talented musician, yeah. We can see a little bit if you guys are watching this and not listening to it. Jordan has a super expensive, I think, mixer behind him, and
What?
then as well as a fancy piano board. Isn't that
No,
the
I don't.
fancy mixer, or what's
Nothing
that thing? Is
nothing
that the mixer?
expensive or fancy. Can you see? I thought
Yeah,
you Oh,
I can see
damn.
you. What do you mean? You thought I was going blind?
Oh,
What's going on?
okay. No, I had the square version of the camera. I thought that was out of frame.
No, no, yeah, you have the that's your mixer board, right?
Yeah, this is just like my
That's your
synth room.
piano. And what's
Yeah,
the one? What's to your left or your right? I guess
this way,
the other way.
that
The
way,
other way. That's not your mixer board. What is that thing?
no, it's just like a synthesizer,
Yeah, isn't that the
this
fancy thing you're
electron
telling me
thing.
about?
I mean,
You're telling.
I don't have anything really fancy, but this is an Octatrack. It's like
That's
a
pretty cool. What do you do with that thing?
just mangle audio. Yeah, it's a good way to decompress
No
after a
pun
day.
intended.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is the synth room. So
Do you what? Do you know who Mark Reblay is? Do you ever do
yeah,
the where you build? I think it's so incredible how a lot of musicians can build. You build a song, but you build it by track, and then it ends up looping over each other. And now it's like this wonderful symphony of sounds. You're like, how did you get to that? And then they do it. Do you ever do any of that kind of stuff, or what is your kind of creative outlet for your musical stuff?
well, he's interesting. I mean, speaking of his shtick, he's kind of like
The robe
super.
and everything.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
he's in a
best.
row. He's screaming. He's
Yeah.
always got some very aggressive or sexual thing to
Yep.
be saying.
Yeah.
It's like small doses,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really just like sit through it. But he's like collaborating with, you know, some big names,
Yeah.
you know. But
He does
yeah,
some cool. He does some cool stuff. It's really interesting. He has some. Supposedly his concerts are really fun. But yeah, he's definitely very high energy. If profanity is not your thing, he's probably not going to be very amenable to you. But
yeah,
he does. He to be fair, he does have a like he does his shtick well. If that can be said, like he does have a shtick, but he does do it well. He's a really interesting guy.
I think Reggie Watts is the
Oh,
person
really?
and for live looping. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just his voice and like this guitar pedal that he uses.
Yep.
Very lo-fi, not expensive, just his talent.
Yeah.
And
You
he's
ever heard of
hilarious. So
Tosh Sultana?
yeah, yeah, she's really
She
great.
does some really cool looping stuff too, where she'll basically like almost like a one woman band, and she'll build up these like just incredible songs just on loop pedals or anything like that, and she'll just kind of build them up. It's really cool.
Yeah, she has an interesting story. She apparently was like a this busking musician and took a bunch of psychedelic drugs and had a psychic break like that lasted for like 6 months or something or several months.
Seriously,
It was a
I didn't
very
know this.
traumatic, bad thing. And the only thing that kind of got her out of that was practicing music.
That's
So
a fascinating. I didn't know. That's a really interesting tidbit. Yeah,
yeah,
she has some bangers. She has some really great music. Wow, I did not know that. That's really fascinating. Do you know
yeah.
the substance? Was it like shrooms or was it LSD or was it psychedelic? No, that's
Yeah, I don't
interesting.
know exactly what she was. It was probably some combination of things.
Yeah,
I'm not really knowledgeable about most of that stuff,
the
but
psychonaut, huh?
yeah, not a psychonaut.
I love it. Um, so you have a pretty interesting journey. So you run a fairly successful agency called Whale Farm, but that's not what you started in, right?
What I started what in?
That's like you haven't always been a really bolts to nuts marketer. You've kind of done a
Oh
bunch of
no, no, I just
really like not odd jobs, but like you have a very interesting journey how you got to starting an agency. Tell me a little bit about
yeah,
it.
yeah. I guess and I didn't really comment on the music stuff, but that's kind of my next frontier. So I just like I'm seeing this pattern in my life where I see big directions I could go and just completely change everything. Like, I'm gonna go do gold exploration in Alaska. Never done it before, but I'm gonna go do that. Or I'm gonna, write books, try that path. Or I'm gonna start an agency and do that for a while. And so right now it's music. It's like songwriting and stuff. So, but I think I'm kind of zeroing in on something, like you ever see like a path that goes up a mountain that goes back and
Yep,
forth.
like
Kind of
switchbacks.
like, yeah, you might be going completely the wrong direction, but you turn, and in the end, you're kind of, you know, zeroing in on where you need to go. So yeah, so as far as where the agency fits in with that, I was in grad school, studying poetry of all things,
Yep.
and graduated and had this really awesome. You can actually make. People say there's no money in poetry, but you can make like hundreds of dollars a year if you're really good. So, but I had student debt, and the only job I could find was at a marketing company.
Okay.
So I went there and I was a salesperson, and I had literally nothing, like bunch of debt, moved back home, which felt like, you know, a step back. And
Yes.
it was like all I had was this job. So for like a year, I just like obsessively worked. Like, I was the first person there, the last person to leave. It's all I talked about. My friends were begging me to stop talking about work. Um, I was like, I'd go to the gym and just listen to, motivational videos and videos about marketing and about sales because I was a salesperson. And so it was just like totally my life. Like, I was just absorbing everything. And I had this feeling at the time that, and I didn't know how this would work out. I was just like, well, I better do really well at this because I don't have a lot of options because I had a lot of student debt. And so I was just like, all right. And other people started to recognize that I was doing well at this company. It's a ad platform called AdRoll.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a salesperson there, and they started saying things to me, like, yeah, you're a workhorse, or you just like work really hard. And I never thought of that, I never thought of myself in that way. Or you're trying to be the best salesperson here, and I was like, uh, I just want to be like maybe one of the best. And then they're like, no, you're trying to be the best. I was like, okay, I'm trying to be the best. And it was an interesting journey, and felt like it felt like I was like predestined to manifest something. It sounds pretty grandiose. I was a little
Yep.
bit, in my head during that time, but I ended up doing that. I ended up like crushing all of the records for at least my market segment that I sold within. Um, and part of that was like, my back was sort of against the wall with student debt, and I set like a really ambitious goal of paying it off in a year, and it was like six figures, and nobody in that job made like as much as had ever made as much as I was aiming to make. And so I had these like crazy goals, like insane goals,
Mm-hmm.
and so like it got to the point where people were really curious about what I was doing. At one point, I, you know, I had like paid for certain platforms, prospecting tools, and sales enablement tools, and even hired VAs. I was already starting a little business because I realized like, oh, a lot of this work that I do can be either automated or delegated.
Yep.
So why don't I just do the only thing that makes me the most money, which is talking to leads on the phone? So I had people scraping lists and doing all kinds of things for me. And there were like, everyone was very curious about what I was doing. And I hid a lot of the specifics, but um, like to the point where like the CEO, like I came to his attention. He's like, what are you doing? What's your secret? I was like, I just work really hard, which it really was true. It wasn't like I gamed the system or something,
Right.
but I kind of rose through the ranks there, and then went to a higher level sales team in a different area. And that was like, I don't know, it just kind of felt like the end of what I was trying to accomplish. And the reason why I started the business at that point was just I had what I valued about being a salesperson is that you're kind of you have a lot of autonomy. Like you have your book of business and you have your conversations and your follow up and your activity, and you have a degree of freedom within the company. And the further you go up market, at least in my experience at this company, like the more regulated or the more red tape there was, the more processes were involved. A lot of that's like on the client side because they have teams of people who need to be looped in and all these different processes. And I just kind of wanted to just get deals done and just
Yep.
like it just seemed like there was a lot of bureaucratic sort of stuff happening. At the time, I thought it was because they were doing it in a way that I would do differently. And since then, I've realized no, that's just like companies above a certain level just operate that way. And so
Yep.
if you're providing a service to them, you've got to kind of match your your red tape with their red tape, so to
Yep.
speak. You know? So, but so long story short, like starting the business was kind of a foolhardy attempt to just replicate the freedom I had without being, you know, managed by other people. So yeah.
It's incredible, man. So when did you make the jump from leaving AdRoll to like totally going out on your own?
So it was 2018. So like May 2018. So
Yeah.
exactly 4 years ago. Um, and yeah, I knew the funny thing was I knew one person who had formerly used AdRoll and stopped using AdRoll, who had told me months ago that like if you ever start a business, we'll be your client. And I wasn't sure if that was like non-compete or if it was
Right.
like I was
Well,
super
if they say it, it's all good. You can't ask them that.
oh,
You
okay.
are usually like non-competes. You can't solicit it. But if I ask you, you're well within your rights to then answer. But you can't be the one that solicits it, if that makes any sense. Anyways,
Okay.
I'm in the weeds. But yeah,
Anyway, so yeah, so I was a little paranoid about that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
so then I went out. Um, funny thing enough is like um, I did end up working with them eventually,
mm-hmm.
but they weren't my first client. So it was just some other ad tech company in Ogden that wanted to build out a sales team. And so that was my first thing was I was like, I want to teach, do consulting for sales processes and how to run a sales program. Because I thought, if what I'm doing is repeatable, then it can be scalable to a whole
Yep,
team. And so there's a guy in Ogden. He's no longer like super active on this project, but he had started a programmatic platform years ago, and he hadn't really grown it, because he'd never had a dedicated sales team. So he hired me for a little bit to consult him on that. I did that for a while. Decided I didn't want to be in consulting,
mm-hmm.
um, and then the shortest step, like the kind of minimum viable product, was well, why don't I just run Facebook ads? It can't be that hard, because
Mm-hmm.
at AdRoll, my experience was you kind of, you win the client and then you just like set up campaigns and set the budget, and that's it. Like there's a few settings, but it's more or less like you just set it up and then you adjust creatives every once in a while, adjust budgets, that's it. I had no idea what I was like actually getting into with Facebook ads. So I got my first e-commerce client, pretty large budget, like maybe 15 to 30K a month. It seemed like a
Yep,
lot at the time.
yep,
And I basically learned while I was running their account and a couple others, um, and took a bunch of courses. That's how I met Eric. I met him at one of the iStack events. Got looped in with some of these mercenary affiliate guys who seemed to be like the straight killers in the media buying world. It seemed like that's where all the talent is, at least in my experience, people that
yep.
I've met. Yeah, so it was at least a solid year of like full time. Basically, it was my full time job to figure out how media buying works. So yeah,
That's crazy, man. Why is it called Whale Farm?
It wasn't called that at first, um, but,
What was the
I
previous name?
it was Surge Ventures or no, Surge Media.
Okay. Okay.
So I thought a lot of, yeah, I don't know, kind of a typical bro name idea, you know, like a very, enthusiastic, like growth media,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, what do you think of the name?
I love
I think
Wealth
it's
Farm. Surge,
yeah,
surge is it's a little verby. You know, you have
yeah,
that verb in there, but it could. My whole thing with names is they can't be horrible. Like I think the name is going to be ultimately an encapsulation of the
mhm.
person or the thing or whatever. But if it's bad or distracting, then that's. But you can kind of
Oh,
mentally
yeah,
masturbate on names too much
yeah,
sometimes for me, where it's like
for
just
sure.
go. Like
Yeah, just
people will have
not
a
bad.
business. Yeah, if it's
Yeah,
not bad, run with it.
you know what's a great example of that? I discovered this band. They're great. They're like experimental, kind of have this like R&B electronic thing going, using weird time signatures and just really interesting. But their name is Jockstrap. That's the name of the band. It's the worst name. I hope they don't ever hear this, but it's like the worst. Like they sound like they should be like the filthiest punk rock band who just
That's
doesn't
exactly what
care.
I got from that. Yeah, or some death
They're
metal
not
or
that
something.
though. They're like think like James Blake plus like Frank Ocean plus
Yeah,
like Gorillaz or something. A
yeah.
little bit of I don't know. It's probably not very accurate, but they're not going for what jockstrap seems to indicate. So, the surge thing was like I thought of like the ocean, you know how like the waves come out and they come in.
Yep,
And it was an experience of mine as an employee that if you just like work really hard in a certain direction, you'll experience these like level ups, like you'll just surge
I love
upward.
that. Yeah,
And it seems like it comes out of nowhere. You can't correlate it, but it's just kind of seems to happen that way. So part of the ethos behind the business was like that experience of like going from being broke and then believing in myself and getting over some limiting beliefs about money and about well-being and all of these things was really important to me. And I thought, well, rather than just like doing a service for people, like what if I could give them that feeling?
yeah,
And like rather than just employing people, what if I could give them the opportunity to have that feeling of like experiencing some dignity in your work, or seeing something happen you didn't think was possible. That was the biggest thing about that whole, you know, experience as an employee, was it wasn't just about making money. It was like for some reason I just wanted to like blow people's minds of what they thought was possible. Because they all had like this, the best person ever did this, and if you do this, you're great, but this is your quota. So you're gonna be kind of here. I was
yeah.
like, dude, what if you're like all the way out here? Like I just fixated on people seeing that, like seeing the scoreboard, being like, what the freak? Like, imagine thinking you could score 100 points in a game,
Yeah.
in a basketball game. Like,
Yep.
if just I don't know, something about it being impossible and then the experience of it happening. And it actually happened, you know? Like, there was a record there that this person was legendary for, that I matched that record for like 14 months in a row. It was just like the same thing. And that's when people were like, he's cheating or he's doing something shady. And so I thought like when I started the business, like if I could create that same sort of experience for small businesses specifically, like people that are just right on the cusp um of growing,
Yeah.
not any small business, but like special small businesses. And to this date, like that's like kind of my North Star, is why I keep doing this. Because for myself, like just doing this for myself, like and maybe I could imagine other things to do, but um, it's like it's meaningful to me that like this brand, for example, this was a side project, and now it's like a full blown business. Like they've got employees, a warehouse, doing pretty well. Like that means something to me.
Totally.
So
Yeah, there's definitely something to that anchoring belief because, like a perfect example, I used to be in really fairly successful runner. I ran in high school and college, and there's a really famous guy named Roger Bannister, and he was the first guy to run under a 4 minute mile. And people had previously thought like a 4 minute mile was absolutely impossible, et cetera, et cetera. And then Roger Bannister did it. And then like 5, 10 years later, Alan Webb and like all these people started popping off 350 plus miles under 4 minutes. And so it just takes that one person to kind of reset what people think is possible, and then you can see people following suit. So you're kind of like the Roger Bannister of your own life, where you're saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I don't care about what people say," is because there was literally a belief that it was physically impossible to run a four
Mm.
minute mile. And then Roger Bannister did it, and then Alan Webb started cranking on it, and Alan Webb did it in high school, which is even crazier. And so I love that, man. That's fantastic. Let me ask you a little bit about kind of the future. What do you think
Mhm.
the biggest opportunity is now and kind of coming up in terms of like e-commerce and what you see like across your agency and clients, and like how do you see like kind of the DTC world unfolding in the next couple of years?
Um, well, I actually just had this conversation earlier today with a client, and my sense of things, I became pretty skeptical of you know hacks and new platforms and like secret methods and all that kind of stuff. And just through experience, and I think this is amplified by like how the market is right now and what's
Hmm.
happening, and especially if we go into a recession, it will be amplified even further. Is
Yep.
that like everything's reduced to like business fundamentals. So
Yep.
like product market fit is more important than creative, which is more important than uh, you know, media buying. Media buying is like the 1% that's gonna like push it over the top. But like just returning to fundamentals. So like how you like the sort of products that you're creating and how you engage with customers. Like I think create it probably yeah, I just think like when people get squeezed, like who do you want to do business with? Someone who like has a sale going or someone who has, you know, somehow gotten in front of you through some ninja skill from media buying. Like, who cares? Just make a really good product and like treat customers really, really well.
Yep.
It's like pretty simple, which is, yeah. So, I mean, and that and creative, I think, because like as the playing field gets leveled,
Yep.
like then it's marketing fundamentals, which is like, what sort of offer do you have, or what sort of
Yep.
how are you positioning your product to be a fit with that consumer. So I think things are moving. I mean, this is just my sense of things. I think things are moving away from like media buying and platforms and this strategy or that strategy, and more to like higher level, um, you know, positioning of like the product and the brand. So yeah. So I think copywriters and people who can make creatives or tools that can make interesting creatives
Hmm.
are really valuable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's kind of funny. I joke about it. It's kind of like corduroy, where it's not dead. It just is waiting for the right cycle, and kind of like what's old is new again, kind of thing. Where getting back to your point, business fundamentals. I think community is a really big one that people are sleeping on. Where being able to have a community, but to your point, like it's really hard to have a community if you have a crappy product. Like
Mhm.
nobody, nobody like drop shippers and stuff. Like it's just not,
Yeah,
you grab something off of Alibaba and then you get some arbitrage on it. It's like, I think those days are pretty challenging right now. And I agree. I don't think media buying's like dead, but I do think there's a, to your point, a hierarchy of things that you need, and media buying is not at the top of that hierarchy.
no,
Like if you can have a great product, if you can have a great community, if you can create great content, and then that in a way builds the fire, and then you can put fuel on that fire, fuel
mhm,
being the media buying. Where if you try and put a bunch of gasoline on something that's not on fire, doesn't matter.
yeah,
It's still not going to be on fire. Like I don't care how
yeah,
great your media buyer is, how great the copy is, how great the creative is. Like if there's not a product market fit, if there's not fundamentals, if the economics don't work,
Mhm.
it's going to be a real big challenge to find
Yeah.
success.
Also, if you don't have like a brand really,
Mhm.
like that that affects things too.
Yep. Yep.
So I think especially as like again, like as times it seems like right now that just this is me as a consumer, my experience in the world is that the cost of everything is going up and the
Mhm.
service level and the quality of everything's going down. Like
Yep.
I pay more for less milk at the grocery store. I
Yep.
pay more for like a worse experience at the dealership. I
Yep.
want to get my car serviced or get a new car. And the people that you do interact with are beaten down and like stretched thin because you know, people are going through staffing issues. So the way that you stand out in that environment is like make a really good product and give really good service
Yep.
to everybody because then they're gonna like that kind of uh, marketing. You know, a really enthusiastic customer is so much more valuable than like hiring someone to do a video or something. You know.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, and for me too, it's also more sustainable, where it's like people are going to have an emotional connection with you. You actually help them out. You solve the need for them. You help them in a time of need, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's a much more powerful connection than being able to put the right ad in front of the right person at the right
Mhm.
time. Like again, it's helpful, but being able to find those people that are really connected and you really have again solve the need for them is going to be way better. Um, Man, we're pushing up against it. I can't believe 41 minutes went by. You ready to jump into rapid fire, Jordan? I'm going to hit you with some questions. You hit me with some answers.
Sure.
All right. Here we go. Overrated, underrated, Austin.
Oh, okay. Overrated would be I'm gonna be rude and say the music's overrated.
Okay. But the
Yeah.
city as a whole.
Oh, is the city? Oh, I thought
Yeah,
the theme.
is Austin. No, no, no.
Yeah,
So is
edit that
Austin
out.
overrated or underrated?
It's underrated.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
awesome. It's where it's happening, right?
yeah, it's a great city, isn't it? I
Yeah.
love this city. I've been here for 12 years almost. Poetry, overrated, underrated.
It depends on who you talk to. Probably like some people need to underrate their appreciation. Some people need to back down a little bit. But it's probably underrated in general. I think
In
any
general.
pleasure like that requires some effort is probably good
Yeah.
medicine.
Do you have
Yeah.
any favorites?
Favorite
Favorite
poem?
poets?
Poets?
Poets or poets? Poems or poets?
There was this guy named Franz Wright and also
Okay.
James Wright. They're the only
Yep.
father-son uh, poet duo that won the Pulitzer. It's the only father-son combination that won the same Pulitzer. So, but they're good.
There's a Pulitzer for poetry? I thought that was a writing
Yeah,
award. Well, I guess poetry is writing, but I thought it was more long
yeah.
form. I did not know that.
No, it's there's. I think there's. It's in different categories or something.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Look at that.
yeah.
The Wright brothers. No, not flying though. Owning an agency, overrated or underrated?
Um. Again, it depends on who you talk to. I
I'm
think
talking to you.
it's supposed to be rapid fire, man. And I'm
I
like
know.
making.
I'm talking to you. So what as you as an agency owner, do you think owning an agency is overrated or underrated?
I think as a way in which to make as much money as possible, it's probably overrated. As a way as the ultimate personal self-development program, it's underrated. If you'll let it be that for you, it can be that for you. But you're not going to be, you know, doing what the people in the YouTube videos or the courses tell you you're going to do. It's a very different sort of thing.
Fair
Yeah.
point. Making music, overrated or underrated?
I think it's underrated. I think everybody should find an instrument.
I love that. What's your
For
favorite instrument?
the piano. Yeah.
Love it. That's the gateway drug, isn't it? If you can play the piano, it's very easy to transition to other instruments. Is what I've been told.
It hasn't worked for me. Like
I've been lied to then.
guitar or anything. Oboe. Oh, it's cool because it's like
The
it's physical,
didgeridoo.
but it's like this steampunk kind of instrument, you know?
Okay.
Like a guitar, you're holding it, you're touching the strings, but a piano, you've got like levers and 1,000 pounds of pressure on these strings and this big iron piece. It's very like high tech for like late 19th century or
Okay.
late country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's in this weird in between, and that's why it can get really quiet or really crazy loud. You know,
I
so
love it.
yeah, for
Um, NFTs, overrated or underrated?
sure. I no comment.
No
Yeah,
comment.
I don't even know anything about NFTs. I just know the same. I don't know if I can curse on this
Of course
podcast.
you can. Yeah, yeah.
Same bros who are like into that. They're always into like the short term new hot thing, and there's
Yeah.
some like newsletter you got to join that they're gonna charge you to join, and then there's a bunch of people who've never really done it who are gonna tell you what to do, and it's just like maybe yeah, go try it if it works. Then
I
I
love it.
just don't have time for it
I
right
can
now.
dig it.
But
Um,
I have friends who are always bugging me about it
I
about
know.
that.
I missed the train. I missed the train. But I'm with you. The rug pulls and there's some things that I'm not super into. I think as a protocol it could be really interesting, but in terms of the art vector, I'm still not sold. Favorite meal and why?
Like breakfast, lunch, or dinner,
No,
or
like actual like yeah, either most frequently eaten or like if you're gonna die like on death row, what would you eat?
um, I'm all about the muesli.
What is that? I don't even know
You know
what
what
that
that
is.
is? Like a
No, what
Swiss
is it?
cereal. It's like this is the dumbest answer to this question, the least cool answer. It's a Swiss cereal that you eat cold with it's like oats and wheat. Very hearty and healthy. Yeah.
Muesli?
Muesli. I think that's how you say it. Yeah.
Muesli. Oh
You
my
mix
god,
like
I've never
yogurt.
even heard of this. That's
It's so great.
amazing.
You don't have to cook, you just pour it. It's like eating cereal, but it's whole grains, so you're not eating like processed food. It's really good. Yeah.
You're such an odd bird, Jordan. I love it. Your
I mean,
favorite
I like
band?
other stuff, but I could be, I'm not gonna be fancy. I'm gonna give my real answer.
Fair play. I love it. I love it. Favorite band?
Radiohead.
Oh, that's a great one. That's Creep, right? That's their
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Great
Yeah.
song. Um, favorite guitar?
Favorite guitar?
Yeah, isn't there like really cool? Isn't guitar like isn't aren't I thought the guitar world is like this whole niche of like you have these
Uh,
different type of people. I thought it was a very polarizing world where people have hot takes
I
on it.
didn't
Is
play
that?
guitar, remember?
Oh, damn
But
it.
I would say my favorite guitar is, I don't know, the really strange ones they play in like
Yeah.
the Slavic countries, like with the
Okay.
different tunes and stuff.
With
Yeah,
the
down with
two
that.
layers or something. Okay. Uh, favorite place to travel to and why?
Um, I really like London
Yeah.
because it feels like it's a world city. It feels like this microcosm of the world.
Yeah.
It's very cosmopolitan, multicultural. The
Lots of
public
history.
transit's really great. It doesn't feel people are polite but not friendly. Like they'll say
Yeah.
hi to you, but they don't want to be your friend, which
Yeah.
is convenient when you're surrounded by people.
Yeah.
A lot of parks, really great art. People speak the same language as me, but they don't have the same culture, which
Right.
is you know a good experience to have.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love it.
I like.
Yeah. Great pick. Favorite way to spend your time?
I really enjoy playing music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you read music?
I used to, but I suppose I could, but I just never really enjoyed
So
it.
now you just kind of go by ear and you
Yeah.
just kind of jam that way. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah. Favorite book?
Man, I got a few. I'm trying to think of some. Most recent one that I really liked, and it's kind of a series. It's by this Finnish guy named Erling Kaga, Kagge. He
Great
wrote a
name.
book called Silence.
Okay.
It's about like finding space for lack of noise in the modern world. He has
Interesting.
another one called Walking. These are very primitive names for books. He
Yeah.
has another one. He has a few other books, but he's a Finnish explorer who walked to the North Pole and he also walked to the South Pole. Spent a lot of time alone.
Oh wow.
He was the first person to do both of those things. But
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, yeah. So
Ernest Kaga. I like it. Silence
good.
and walking.
Yeah, that's like
Uh,
philosophy. Like
yeah, yeah. It's very
yeah.
interesting. Okay, last question. We'll wrap up the rapid fire. If you could have dinner with three people, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, who would they be? So you're sitting at a 4-person table. You're sitting at the head. You can send 3 dinner invites out. Who's getting an
Oh, they have
invite?
to all be there at the same time?
It's all there at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, alright, Homer Simpson.
Love it. You're the first person to do a fictional character, by the way.
Really?
Very awesome. Yeah, super awesome. I love
I
it.
mean, wouldn't if you have this dinner party, wouldn't they be, like, horrified that they're alive again? Like, "Whoa, what am I doing here?"
No, we can normalize all the
I mean,
freakness of it. We'll give them some amnesia drug or something like that. It's more so just who do you want to put in the same room and who do you want to conversate with?
yeah, I think
Homer's a
okay,
great pick.
yeah, just a
Fantastic
humorous
pick. Yeah.
character, you gotta have someone there, and
Yeah.
then probably a great American statesman like Benjamin Franklin,
Okay.
one of those guys,
Love it.
and maybe an ancient, philosopher like Sun Tzu, the Art of War guy, or Lao Tzu,
Love it. Yeah.
and then
Hold on, that's 3.
I
That's
don't
your 3.
oh,
You
3?
got,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
good.
yeah. It's a
Yeah,
4-person dinner, but you're taking a seat. So you got Homer, you got either Lao Tzu or Sun Tzu,
yeah.
ancient Chinese philosopher slash really smart person, and then an American statesman, Ben Franklin. That's a
Mhm.
fun meal.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Homer is probably not going to add a lot to the combo, but hey, you know,
You can add comedic like, comic relief, you know?
yeah, it'll bring
Right.
it'll make the mood very approachable. I love it. Jordan, you made it all the way through the podcast. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it was interesting, man.
Unbelievable. How can people connect with you, Jordan? How can people work with Whale Farm? Let the people know this time is yours, my friend.
Visit the website, whalefarm.co,
Love it.
and you can contact us there.
Cool. And then how can people follow you? You're on Facebook, LinkedIn. What are your socials?
Yeah, I'm mostly, a pretty incognito person.
Okay. Yeah. Love it.
If you wanted to friend me on Instagram, and I'll run a background check and everything, make sure you check out. But it's AKA_JCon, JKON.
Beautiful.
But
Well, go follow him. Go sign up for Whale Farm if you want to get a fantastic agency. Thank you for dropping all your poetic knowledge about music, about life, Jordan. This has been a blast. If you want to get more involved with Triple Whale, we are trytriplewhale.com. We also have a fantastic newsletter that goes out every Tuesday, Thursday called Whale Mail. And Jordan, we're still up for another coffee or drink together. We'll do that again soon. Thank you again, my friend. Super awesome. Again, Eric, thank you for hooking us up and connecting us. And then that's it. That's 42 in the books, folks. We'll see everyone on the flip. Thanks again.